Thanks so much for joining me on the Feel Like Talking podcast. I'm your host, Jared Taylor. How are you two today?
Fantastic.
Excellent. I'm excited to have you both on the podcast. It's really exciting to be able to announce the partnership between BlocHealth and Panacea Financial. I mean, from the minute we spoke, it made a lot of sense. And over the last couple months, us talking, it's continued to make sense. And I'm really excited to work with you both and your team to be able to help physicians make life easier for them. That was really the common thing, the thing that we had most in common when we were going after this partnership. So I wanted to have both of you on the podcast today to talk about the partnership and specifically tell the audience about Panacea Financial. I mean, we posted about what you guys do, but it's always best to have the people that are doing it come on and describe it themselves. So I guess let's go through the why, how, and what, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, Jared, thanks so much for having us on. Really appreciate being here. And just like you, super excited to be partnering with BlocHealth and really tackling the shared mission that we have of just making things better for physicians, making things easier, and increasing our happiness and longevity in the space. So thanks again. Super excited for this partnership. So Panacea Financial, to tell the briefest version of a story that goes back about 6 or 7 years now, was Michael and I really came to this from two different pathways that demonstrated the same really shared feature. And that shared feature, just to start with it, is that traditional banks did not understand what it took to become a physician, both in terms of time, in terms of finances, and ultimately in terms of what the expectations were. And so this led to a lot of frustration, a lot of financial stress, and really just some general unhappiness. So from my own story, I'll have Michael share his. From my own story, I was trying to get my student loans refinanced. I had $400,000 in student loans, which is not atypical for the cost of medical education. Slightly above average, but not terribly. I had a great credit score. I'd never missed a payment. I was a resident in Cincinnati, Ohio at the time, and I was rejected. I was rejected again. I was basically rejected by everybody. Anybody who would let me in their room to talk about refinancing the loans would then demand a cosigner, asking my parents to sign off on the loans for me, or in one pretty frustrating case, I was offered a higher interest rate and told that it would be better for me. And so I was frustrated, and so I shared that experience with Michael, with Michael, who had gone through some very challenging circumstances of his own. And as we started talking, we then kind of reached out into our network of colleagues or friends of med students, residents, attendings, and everybody started sharing similar stories of bouncing off the traditional banking sector and recognizing that they don't understand what it takes to become a physician. They don't understand the expected costs and what normal is to go through this path. And that's really what the genesis was for Panacea Financial, and realizing there had to be a better way, a group that understood physicians and would meet them where they are. And that was where Panacea started from. It's really just this idea of designing and building something specifically for this group. And I can throw it to Michael for his story of how he got to this same shared frustration.
Sure. Thanks, Ned. And happy to be here. Thanks for having us on. Yeah, I think it's not uncommon for us to talk to lots of physicians, especially those in training that have had very frustrating experiences and interactions with financial companies. And I think the saying is necessity is the mother of invention. And I think that we, both Ned and I and many other physicians, have seen a need for something different for doctors to go to that is designed for them, with them in mind. Because what we found is banks and financial companies have a very rigid definition of what is a quote unquote good or credit worthy customer. And I can tell you from experience that a medical resident making $45,000 a year with $260,000 of medical education debt is apparently not a very good customer to a bank. And so my story really has to do with in residency. In residency, was married, had 2 kids at the time of this story, and had some unexpected medical bills, and ended up having to put some stuff on credit cards. But before that, I was thinking, okay, there's got to be somebody online or a local bank here in Cincinnati that would be willing to see me as a potential customer that they would want to keep. So someone that's only, a few months, a year or so away from having a high income as an attending physician that can work as long as he wants to. Certainly they would give me some benefit of the doubt, and just needed a few $1,000s on a personal loan. But same as Ned, I was asked to get a cosigner. I was basically deemed untrustworthy, which is ironic because that day that I was looking, I literally got home from an ICU where I was entrusted with other people's lives. But then I couldn't be trusted with $4,000 or $5,000 from a bank. So that those shared experiences that Ned and I just discussed really led us to be determined to find a better solution for physicians that was designed for them and helped make their life easier.
Thank you. Yeah, that was great. It's one of the things that really stands out when I speak with both of you, and I knew this before we started working together, is just the passion across your team for everything that you do. And I think it's very hard to hide passion, right? It easily comes out when someone's speaking, when we're doing video calls, you can see it, in the person's eyes. So when you guys are speaking and you're telling us about Panacea, how things started, why things started, I really get a sense of the passion, and I'm the same way, right, when I'm talking about BlocHealth. So that was another reason why I was really excited for us to be able to partner together.
Yeah, I totally hear you, Jared. It's, I'm right there with you. I appreciate what BlocHealth has done to support the physician community, because it really does. I find this passion, for me personally, I won't speak for Michael, but for me personally, this passion comes from like a love of this shared community, like the healthcare community, where lots of people have gone through very challenging times, very challenging experiences to get where they are. And just this overwhelming desire to want to support that community, to prevent bad actors from taking advantage of them, and to bring back the sense of like the joy in the community, the happiness in the community. And that comes with relieving of some of these stresses, of taking away some of these pain points. And that is, I think, like you said, one of those shared features of both Panacea and BlocHealth, where we're really trying to tackle the sense of financial stress and unhappiness, and you're really working more on the paperwork headache and the hassle and the credentialing side is something certainly that we really share and are excited about, reducing the stress on the community and helping to see it flourish from that standpoint.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we have different necessary like focuses, but the core problem of making life easier, I think, is something that we definitely share. So that was really important when we started talking. I really love what you guys are doing. We've talked with a lot of people in our network, and I look forward to growing together through this partnership. Right, we're going to do a lot of brainstorming on some different issues that affect both of us, and with an ultimate goal of how does this make life easier for the physician. And if something does make life easier for the physician, we're going to explore it, right? Especially if it's within our core competencies.
Absolutely. And I'd like to add too, just kind of circling back with some of those stories that Ned and I mentioned, is that we really take these individual experiences and these pain points and kind of backwards construct a solution. And luckily now, Panacea Financial is a division of Sona Bank, so a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded bank and out of Virginia, who allows us to basically deliver on that promise to create products that solve those problems. So being able to, like for Ned, have someone who's such a great borrower for him, understand him as a borrower, and not have maximums on student loan refinance, for example, that's dependent on a debt to income ratio, for example. Or for me, have a resident who just needs a few $1,000s and say, hey, you know what, if you can prove to us you're a medical trainee, basically we can get you the money you need in as little as 24 hours without having a cosigner, without having to go ask a family member for money, putting on a credit card. And the same thing, I think, for a lot of medical trainees and probably a lot of your listeners is we are a very fluid and mobile workforce. So having a bank that can travel with them wherever they go, with their own personal banker, wherever they go, that can stick with them coast to coast, I think is a really unique offering that we have designed, again, with those pain points in mind that physicians have.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure having both of you on our first ever episode of the Feel Like Talking podcast to discuss more about this partnership. Obviously, if people want to learn more, we will direct them over to your site. We will tell them more about your organization as well. And we will include any and all links to social media and to your website in the show notes.
Well, that's
Sounds
fantastic,
great.
Jared. Thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate it. Super excited to be partnering with BlocHealth and look forward to being featured on a future episode.
Absolutely. The plan is to keep having our partners back on to talk about key issues, because there's many things that, look at all we had to talk about in 2020, right, with the state of healthcare. So it'll be interesting to see how things evolve throughout 2021. And it'd be great to have you guys on a couple more times throughout the course of the year.
Excellent. We love to. Thanks so much, Jared.
Thanks
guys.
again.